James Burke's personal view of life and the universe can also be found in this BBC book based on the series. It's also called The Day the Universe Changed. We narrow the field just a little now as Barry Took reveals your comments on BBC Television in Points of View.
Thank you for that week in the TARDIS. Not unlike Doncaster. Bye! Good evening. Oh. Now, what's been happening in the last week on television? Well, many things, including the passing of Maelstrom. Most of you loved it. Mrs. P. Potter of Alice in Liverpool among you.
Maelstrom was so well cast, produced, and the story intriguing. The lovely scenery also made Norway look very inviting.
Yes, didn't it? Even if they do charge you £2 for a glass of beer. Ms. Julia Gansel of London East 3 writes,
Dear Auntie Beebe, yes, you have done it again. Well worth £46. I talk, of course, of Maelstrom. This mini-series kept me enthralled. Good acting, lovely scenery, not to mention the great story. I was wishing the week away till the next episode.
That's generally the reaction to good serials. But here's Colin Moth of Chelmsford on the subject.
Maelstrom was an excellent series, the suspense building up gradually against a very scenic background. At the end of episode 5, we were left wondering as to who it could be behind the door in a white dress in that room. Was it Ingrid, or was it Anna Marie? Or could there be a late twist in the story? Suspense, suspense. Still, all would be revealed in episode 6 on Tuesday, March the 12th at 8:05 p.m.
But Mrs. Christine Oxby of Halifax takes up the story.
I was amazed while watching television on Monday, March the 11th, to be shown a preview of the programme, which gave the whole thing away and showed us who done it.
As Mrs. Anne Hoyle of Kendal, Cumbria says,
What are the BBC playing at?
well, it was a mistake, and we're terribly sorry. We haven't been at all well lately, which brings me to Monkey Business and your reactions to it. First, Stanley Kitchener of Orpington.
How on earth can the BBC possibly take off Doctor Who when they start programmes like Monkey Business? Monkey Business is an insult to even the lowliest life forms which would have enjoyed Doctor Who.
Well, that should irritate everyone in sight. Here's A.R. Harper of Harold Hill, Essex.
Monkey Business, inept, inane, and even worse, it's coming again.
If it is, I doubt if Mrs. Margaret Hounslow of Portsmouth will be watching.
If the contestants of Monkey Business want to amuse themselves, why don't they have a get-together at home instead of the viewers being subjected to such drivel?
And Mrs. Hounslow asks,
Can the BBC standards sink any lower?
I can't remember when a programme has come in for such stick. Oh, yes, I can, 60 Minutes. Now, here are some more of your comments. June Bailey of Hull.
When the BBC came up with the railway carriage game, I thought the depths had been plumbed in asinine rubbish. I was wrong. Monkey Business surpasses it.
Andrew Hillier of Aythorne near Dover wonders if...
The BBC thinks it a part of its duty to cater for the tastes of any surviving Neanderthal during peak viewing time.
Well, 3 surviving Neanderthal, Claire, Jude and Ange, don't like it either. They call it...
Utter mindless trash.
Their letter comes from Villiers Hall, Leicester University, and is nearly in joined-up writing. Mind you, they're only in their first year. Why am I being rude? Well, listen.
Incidentally, Tookie old fruit, you are an obnoxious, patronising, condescending wet, and your show is a disgrace and on a par with the aforementioned tripe.
Thank you for writing. What are you studying at Leicester University? Public relations? But now, Only Fools and Horses, of which R. Toft of Whittlesford, Cambridgeshire, writes...
Marvellous script, superb acting, need I say more? Congratulate the writer John Sullivan on my behalf for this excellent series, will you?
I certainly will. And for Mrs. L.D. Barnett of Hoggeston, Buckingham, who's a fan of the series, here's a moment from it now. Only Fools and Horses.
I remember what Mum said on her deathbed.